The morning sun had just begun to rise as Ethan Carter stood at the edge of his driveway, adjusting the straps of his backpack. The air was crisp, and the quiet suburban street slowly came alive with the familiar sounds of a weekday morning, cars starting, doors closing, and distant chatter of students waiting for the school bus. Ethan wasn't exactly excited. It was just another day at school, or so he thought. A loud rumble echoed as the bright yellow bus turned the corner. The doors hissed open, and Ethan climbed aboard, greeted by a wave of noise, laughter, music from someone's headphones, and random conversations overlapping each other. "Yo, Ethan," his best friend Jake shouted from the back. Ethan squeezed through the aisle and dropped into the seat beside him. "What's up? Math test today," Jake groaned dramatically. "I didn't study at all." Ethan smirked. "Same here, we're doomed." The bus ride felt like a mini world of its own. Some students were half asleep, others scrolling on their phones, and a few already arguing about basketball scores. It was chaotic, but somehow comforting. Morning arrival. As the bus pulled up to the school, Ethan stepped off and looked at the massive brick building in front of him. The American flag waved above the entrance, and groups of students poured in from all directions. Inside, the hallways buzzed with energy. Lockers slammed, sneakers squeaked against the floor, and announcements echoed faintly through the speakers. Ethan opened his locker, grabbing his books just as Sophie, one of the top students in class, walked by. "Ready for the math test?" she asked confidently. Ethan laughed nervously. "Define, ready." She smiled. "You'll be fine." He wasn't so sure. First period, math. The classroom felt unusually tense. Mr. Thompson stood at the front, holding a stack of papers like it was a final judgment. "All right, everyone," he said, "no talking. You have 45 minutes. The test papers landed on desks one by one. Ethan stared at the first question. It looked familiar, but also not. His mind raced. Why didn't I study? Around him, pencils scratched rapidly. Sophie was already halfway through. Jake, on the other hand, looked like he was silently begging the ceiling for answers. Halfway through, Ethan took a deep breath. He stopped panicking and started thinking. Slowly, question by question, things began to make sense. By the time the bell rang, he wasn't confident, but he wasn't hopeless either. Second period, English. English class was a completely different vibe. Ms. Rodriguez greeted everyone with a warm smile. "Today, we're discussing storytelling," she announced. "What makes a story powerful?" Hands went up immediately. "It needs emotion," Sophie said. "Conflict," someone added. "Relatable characters," another voice chimed in. Ethan sat quietly, thinking. Ms. Rodriguez looked at him. "Ethan," he hesitated, then said, "I think, a good story makes you feel like you're inside it." She smiled. Exactly. For the first time that day, Ethan felt a spark of confidence. Lunch break. The cafeteria was loud, chaotic, and full of life. Ethan grabbed a tray, pizza, milk, and some fruit, and joined Jake and their group at the table. "So," Jake said, mouth half full, "how bad was the test?" "I survived," Ethan replied. "That's not reassuring." They all laughed. Nearby, a group of students debated loudly about a basketball game. Across the room, someone dropped their tray, and everyone turned for a split second before going back to their conversations. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't quiet, but it was real. Ethan looked around and realized something. This place, with all its noise and randomness, was actually full of stories. Afternoon, science lab. Science class was always interesting, especially on lab days. "Today, we're doing experiments," announced Mr. Lee. Safety goggles on. Ethan and Sophie were paired together. "Let's not blow anything up," Ethan joked. "No promises," she replied with a grin. They carefully followed instructions, mixing chemicals and observing reactions. At one point, their mixture fizzed unexpectedly. "Whoa," Ethan exclaimed. Sophie laughed. "That's actually correct." For the first time, Ethan wasn't just trying to get through the day, he was enjoying it. Last period, gym. The gym echoed with bouncing basketballs and shouting voices. "Teams," the coach yelled. Ethan ended up on the same team as Jake. "All right," Jake said, "we win this." The game started fast. Sneakers screeched, passes flew, and energy filled the room. Ethan got the ball. For a moment, everything slowed down. He took the shot. Swish. "Let's go," Jake shouted. Ethan couldn't help but smile. The end of the day. As the final bell rang, students rushed out like a wave. Ethan walked back to the bus, tired but different. "Today wasn't that bad," Jake said. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, It wasn't. As the bus pulled away, Ethan looked back at the school. This morning, it had felt like just another routine. But now, it felt like something more. A place full of challenges, friendships, small victories, and moments that actually mattered. Conclusion. That night, as Ethan sat at his desk, he opened his notebook. Instead of homework, he started writing. Not about math, not about tests, but about his day, because for the first time, he realized, even an ordinary school day can be a story worth telling.